Hi everyone. So I had a chance to speak with Afzil Hussain. A small story on how Afzil and I met. He commented on a YouTube tutorial video that I put up, and it was one of the initial tutorials, one of the initial comments that I got. So I was really excited and looked up who commented on my video. And when I saw and I found out, I was like, okay, this super impressed by what he's doing. Afzal is the founder of Simply.io, a platform that is working with people from underprivileged and low socioeconomic backgrounds and focused on democratizing career advice and access to professional networks. So after a not so great experience trying to build the platform using a coded agency, Afzal decided to learn Bubble and build the platform himself while simultaneously working on his YouTube channel, which has over 100,000 subscribers. Really inspiring stuff. I reached out to him to see if he would be up for a chat, and he was very generous with his time. And we could go on and on, but both of us had calls after the scheduled time, so we had to cut it off at the end quickly. But yeah, this is our first one-to-one interview style meeting that I also recorded for you guys. Hope you find it inspiring. I did. Let me know in the comments below how you found it and if you'd like to see similar stories and if you'd like to hop on the channel as well. Thanks. Let's just start with a basic intro. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Afzil Hussain. I started my career working in banking. So I used to work at Goldman Sachs. I did that after when I was in university. Everyone around me and myself, we were just focused on getting internships, breaking into investment banking because we studied economics and finance. I spent a few years at Goldman Sachs, and then I spent almost 4 years there. And then at that time, I realized I'm actually more interested in entrepreneurship and social mobility. So helping people kind of break into industries that they otherwise might struggle to break into. Because I came from a humble background, didn't have much career support per se, and I managed to get a job in a highly competitive field. So I decided to leave the industry, and I started posting a video on YouTube, one video a week. And it was just insights into breaking in or securing an internship or getting a graduate scheme. And I did that with no expectation. I just thought, let me post one video a week for 1 year and see what happens. And the channel started growing and it started gaining traction. And then I realized, hold on, this YouTube thing has some potential. So I'm still doing that. It's been over 3 years now, and the channel's got over 125,000 subscribers, which is great. And then on the side, I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, but I'm not a technical founder. And so we can talk about the ups and downs of building a product throughout this interview in due course. But long story short, I had an idea to build a platform that allows people to book mentors or pay to book mentors. And that eventually turned into Simply, which now is a platform where companies can host webinars to access their target candidates. So that's kind of long story short. That's a quick whistle stop tour of my journey.
It's definitely really interesting, and I think you touched almost all of the questions I had prepared.
Oh, so, right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So that's but we can dig a little bit deeper. At what point do you think you were like, you know what, job's fine, let's start this influence? Was there like a parallel time, like the YouTube grew and then you left, or would you leave it? What did that look like?
So I'm very tactical and risk averse. So I knew I can't just quit my job at Goldman Sachs and just explore anything, because that's quite a risky move. So first things first was I had to ensure I had enough saved up to kind of last me a few months, right? Or 6 months or a year, whatever it might be. But also whilst I was at Goldman, I had a small consulting business, and it was just a Wix website. And it was, and it runs now actually. It's officialcvdoctor.com. Now it's just a platform where people can buy like PDFs and stuff. But at the time it was, people can book 30 minutes or 60 minutes with me for like a career advice consulting chat, and that was making money.
You did it one-to-one. You were doing it one-to-one already.
Exactly. And I was people were paying to have their CVs or resumes edited, so I was doing that for them as well. So that business was making money on the side, and it was gaining traction. And at that point, I realized I have something here, and I've got a decent amount of savings. And I was honestly, I was kind of sick of my job. I was really bored of it, and I couldn't see myself
Okay.
being there for any longer. So every day I woke up and I was like quite depressed to go into
Dreading
work.
it.
And
Okay.
so I
That's
realized,
not
you
a
know
nice
what,
place.
there's only there's only so long this can go on for. So then I decided to leave and pursue everything else. The YouTube channel happened by, it wasn't like a plan. I didn't plan for it to be like a commercial opportunity. It just happened by accident.
Okay.
It was more
Okay.
like I wanted to share my ideas and insights, and then there happened to be a market for it.
Definitely, definitely.
Mm.
So, but the one-to-one CV review and those, how did you find your initial kind of like people? If there was no YouTube channel, was it
Yeah.
like door to door?
So so I, I so I'm sure you've heard of the concept of like unfair advantage, right? Um, and so my unfair advantage was that I got into Goldman Sachs. And so Goldman
Okay.
Sachs, if you're a finance student or if you're in uni, everyone wants to work at Goldman Sachs because it's a prestigious brand. Half the
Yeah.
world hates Goldman Sachs because they think they're responsible for the financial crisis. Half the world wants to work for Goldman Sachs because it's prestigious and they pay lots of money,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Pay normal.
So when I was at Goldman Sachs, I started growing my LinkedIn profile. Actually, I started growing my LinkedIn
Uh-huh.
profile before Goldman's. So in
I
university,
see.
uh, I used to share lots of career tips for students and graduates. And so
Okay.
the LinkedIn following at the time had like 20,000 followers. And
Nice.
so that was the target
Really good.
market, students and junior professionals. And so that's how I was kind of promoting the business and acquiring new users. And that grew when I was at Goldman. I kept posting on LinkedIn. And so the following grew. Right now, it's at about 49,000 followers. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's how I kind of marketed CV Doctor. Because
Nice.
also
Nice.
one hack at the time, I had 20,000 followers, and LinkedIn would let you download every single email of those 20,000 people.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but now
They
they
don't do
stopped
that
that.
anymore.
Yeah, they stopped it. They realized. So I downloaded it, and this was before the what's the
Email campaigns and fancy like.
exactly before, I forget what it's called, but before all of that. So yeah, and but now it stopped. So yeah.
Okay. Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So it's like it seems like LinkedIn was the starting point, wasn't it? So did you have a rough idea? Well, why post tips regularly? Were you intentional in building an audience,
No,
because of the entrepreneurial or
no. So it all kind of happened naturally, and then I realized, hold on,
uh,
this makes
there's
sense. If you
something?
wanna
Yeah,
if you wanna sell a product, it's good to have an audience, right? Um,
definitely,
so I was posting on LinkedIn because naturally I've always wanted to like share stuff that I wish I knew a few years ago. Because
definitely.
like I didn't have people in the industry to help me, and so I know it helps a lot of people that come from a similar background. So it was all
Yeah,
like just sharing stuff, and then I realized each of these posts, they tend to get lots of likes and people share them, and so I thought, you know what, it's doing good, let me do more. And then as it
yeah,
grew, I thought there might be a commercial opportunity here, and then I explored the whole CV Doctor thing, um,
yeah,
and then the YouTube. So it helped. I got lucky that I had a LinkedIn following, because when I
yeah.
started doing YouTube videos, I was promoting them on LinkedIn, and so they
Okay.
say to grow a platform or grow a following, it helps to have a following. So I was leveraging the LinkedIn
Oh yeah,
audience to watch the YouTube videos. And it was
yeah,
very relevant audience because it was all students and junior professionals interested in finance careers.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it snowballs. It definitely it's easy to snowball. It's hard to kind of like start from a blank kind of
Yeah,
slate.
yeah,
But it's the consistency, isn't it? If you
yeah.
had to come up with like one tip to tell, would it be consistency or something else? Because my
So
limited 6 month experience with social media has been kind of like consistency is the thing.
consistency is very important. Like without consistency, there's no success. But I think it's important to. There's no point being consistent if you're putting out low value content.
Low
So
value, yeah.
it needs to
No
be high value,
value
and
add.
you want each post to kind of get better. So you want to improve with each post or each
Okay.
week or
Yeah.
month. The key thing to focus on is like with all social media platforms, they only care about keeping people on those given platforms. So if your content is able to do that, or if it's able to inspire people to share your content, if it's shareable, then that encourages people to follow you, and that helps you grow.
Nice. So interesting. It's like you were tired of your job and started, okay, there's some side hustle, something happening. But we're not really like simply, it's like, so how did you go from here to
Yeah,
simply the platform?
yeah. So um, when I was doing the career consulting, and it was just me, one-to-one video calls
Yeah,
like this, and then you
yeah,
quickly realize it's not scalable, uh, and
exactly. Yeah,
so I had to think, all right, what would be scalable is there are hundreds of thousands of people like me who have industry experience. They can easily coach people that want to break in. So I should create a platform or an app that enables this transaction or this interaction to happen, and I can be a middleman
okay.
and take a fee. And so
Mhm.
the trouble was, okay, I'm not a technical founder. What should I do? And then I've got a friend who's also interested in entrepreneurship, and he knew a few guys in Serbia who were like, it's an outsourced development thing.
Yeah,
So they build
yeah,
products for companies, and they charge lots of money. So the idea was to outsource the development. And I was a bit hesitant about this, but I thought, you know what, if I don't do this, Simply is not going to get built. And so I thought it's the only option I have. And in the end, it was like we kind of split up the equity. And I knew, like, don't ever do business with, don't outsource or don't ever do business with someone who isn't fully invested in your idea. Um, so for me, like, as a founder, it was like I was passionate about the idea, and I kind of wanted people working on it full time. But I didn't want to outsource it to a group of guys who were gonna do it like not wholeheartedly, or they didn't understand the purpose of the project.
yeah,
Like outsourcing can work, but in this case for me it didn't work. So we did that.
yeah.
The app was built, and then anytime I wanted a change, it would take too long. Anytime I needed an update, anytime we wanted to make progress on the product, it would be a bit tricky. So it just wasn't working, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to figure this thing out on my own. And so I told them this ain't going to work. This isn't going nowhere. Everyone agreed. And then I got 100% back ownership of the company. And then I thought, all right, the next 6 months to 1 year, I'm going to figure out how to build this using no code. Because at the time, all these no code platforms are growing, especially Bubble. And I thought, really and truly, I just need a platform that can integrate a payment system, and then enable people to make video calls. And that could be an external Zoom thing, right? So I thought it can't be too
Yeah,
tricky. Let me go down the Bubble wormhole. So that's kind of how Simply got
okay.
started, and where it led me.
Interesting. So did you like just rewinding back a bit?
Yeah,
Was the platform live, the coded one live, with users and it kind of like production
that's a
happening,
good point,
stuff
actually.
happening?
Yeah, so when I used the guys from Serbia to create the mobile app, I mean, credit to them, they did a good job. They created the mobile app, and I
Okay,
leveraged my audience and promoted it, and we got lots of users. And it was
nice.
at the time. It was basically industry professionals and applicants or interested professionals in working in the industry. They could book them for 30 minutes or an hour, and they would pay a price, and then Simply takes a fee.
Okay,
Sorry, and that was working. It's just there was for version 2 of the app, like, as you grow a product, you've got lots of ideas to improve it, right?
yeah,
And so the developers, they saw it as too much work. And so I was there, I wanted to move a lot faster. They were there saying, we're not being paid for this. uh, I've given them equity, but equity, you can't see it. Equity is a longer term vision thing,
it's
right?
yeah, it's like
Sorry.
it's a tricky one. So I run
Very
a bubble
tricky.
agency, and I get sometimes asked, can you work for equity?
Mm,
And from founders, and I'm like, well, I do have costs as well.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So
100%.
it's a tricky one to balance the equity versus upfront versus ongoing
Exactly.
kind of vested interest.
Yeah.
Uh, okay,
And that's
so
completely understandable and fair. Like, I understand the developer's perspective. why should they use their resources and their guys or girls and their costs to build this thing for me when they're not seeing any monetary returns immediately? That's completely fair and understandable. In the end, we all ended on like everyone was in agreement. I wanted to move faster. They didn't want to build, and I didn't want to pay for it. So it was like, all right, you know what? Let's just all split, go our own ways. But I realized in that time, okay, so this idea, there's some traction, there's some demand for it. There's proof of
You
concept.
managed to validate it.
Exactly.
Definitely validation. Yeah, and that's the
Exactly.
hardest part essentially. Like now with no code, it's easy to build stuff. It's
Yeah.
but the original challenge remains building the right thing.
Yeah.
So that challenge remains.
Yeah.
But what to build is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to build stuff.
I
So
guess if
how did you? Yeah,
no, sorry, I was just gonna say, I guess if you've got an audience, just interview them or send out polls or feedback to see if there's demand for the
yeah,
product. But sorry, you were gonna
yeah.
say?
So yeah, this is correct. Like validation, whether it's, I think like you had an advantage that you started the platform and you had the audience so you can survey them, but the other, like not every founder has an audience,
Mhm.
and but that doesn't mean that the problem doesn't exist. It's just that the people hang out somewhere. So
Yes.
that's what we kind of like and that's what I work with founders all the time, and I'm like, okay, I'm not the UX expert, we're more the building expert, but I know enough UX to be dangerous. And
Mm.
it's like lovely feature, who asked for it?
Yeah.
And then it's like, not really, and I came up with it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's not gonna work, that's not
Yeah.
gonna work, it's too hard and complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking to people, hanging out with them, it's boring stuff, but there's no shortcut.
It's true.
Chat GPT won't answer this. Do
Yeah,
people
no,
need
you're
my
right.
product?
It's true. It's true.
You
And
know?
all this stuff,
Yeah,
like for anyone interested that's watching this, I would highly recommend all the Y Combinator videos. Um,
yeah,
and
definitely.
for anyone that doesn't know, Y Combinator is like the world's most preeminent startup accelerator. They have videos on this. It's basic stuff, but not many people do it. Like talk to your customers or potential users, find out what they want. There's no point building 20 different features if there's only
Yeah,
real demand for one. And it goes back to 80-20 rule, right? Most of your revenue is going to come from 20% of your clients, or 20% of the features as opposed to 80.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. No, definitely. And like one book I recommend is The Mom Test,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a way of asking questions.
Yeah.
It's not really like, oh, here's an app, do you like it? Well, normal people will say, yeah, lovely, amazing,
Yeah.
but they won't take out the wallet.
Yeah.
So, but it's the way of asking the right questions
Yeah.
to kind of hone in on the problem. So, uh, excellent. Now, just a little like we reached the app, the coded app, and now you were at the point of like, I'm gonna build this myself.
Yeah.
Did you know about Bubble, no code? How did you first come across no code and Bubble?
So if I ever want to learn anything or if I don't know the answer to something, I open up Google and just Google search and then click the first 10 links of the first few pages. So it's like
Okay.
how to build an app as a non-technical founder or no code,
Ah,
the best apps. So prior to this, I knew about Webflow, but
I
at
see.
the time, so Webflows, when I first, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, I jumped on Webflow and I tried to create a website and it was okay, but I just couldn't get my head around the responsive design and all just the way it worked. It threw me off. And also for what I was trying to do, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if Webflow allow this now, but you can't do like payments, you don't have like a CMS, anything like that.
They're trying to build logic and backend and user authentication,
Yeah.
but it's not there. It's not there yet.
Yeah, so then it was like Webflow, the best websites I've seen on Webflow look amazing in terms of a user design
UI, like
UI
front end
perspective,
design.
right? They look great, they're
Yeah.
smooth, they have all these like movements, great. But only after doing lots of research, I came across Bubble, and it was like the only platform that had the database, it had the design, and it had the like workflows and all of that. And it took me a long time to get my head around Bubble, and even now I'm not an expert. I'm far from. Um, and it was just by using it, watching every single YouTube tutorial on Bubble that exists. Um, and just trying to like talk to people on whenever I got stuck. And like all those forums, they have tons of useful answers on the Bubble forums.
Definitely.
But yeah, so sorry, that
So,
what was your question? Sorry.
no, it was like, how did you first come across
Oh,
Bubble? But
right.
you did
Yeah,
answer it. You were like
tons of
Googling
research.
around and you kind of
Yeah.
somehow reached Bubble. But
There was other
I'm
platforms. Sorry, there was other platforms like Adalo and a few others. But
mobile one, yeah.
after comparing them all, and there was Wordspace or whatever, all these basic standard ones.
Anyone?
But Bubble
Yeah.
seemed to be the one that was ahead of all of them, and it had everything I needed to do. So yeah, that's to answer your question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely Bubble can easily handle your platform and use case.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know, like, what made you stick to like, I'm gonna do this myself rather than
Mm.
I'm gonna hire someone? Like I'm coming from a Bubble agency perspective, and I've actually quite a few times we've received requests to like, we tried it with code, it didn't work. Now
Yeah.
we're gonna try building it with Bubble, and it was like after building it, they're like, it's so much better with Bubble because
Yeah.
it kind of like the cycle of work just is faster and all that. But you seem to have like, did you build this yourself and you like, oh, I'm gonna do it myself?
Yeah. So it was honestly, I like having control. Now, I don't want to sound like a
Okay.
micromanager or anything, but I knew so it's two things. If I'm gonna outsource it to a company, it means that I lose that control. And if I want to build a company or a startup, um, what happens if I outsource it and then the business is too busy, or my app doesn't take priority, or the most important one is I would have to pay to get it built, but then will I have to pay for every iteration? Or what about next year if I decide to? Because whoever's watching this, you probably know by now, I pivoted many times. And if you're doing entrepreneurship, you're going to pivot lots of times, right? And so each time I pivot, it's going to cost me a lot of money to pay the agency to rebuild or redesign the platform. And so I thought, you know what, the only way for me to do this. And also, I was very curious and interested about learning how to build stuff. I knew trying to learn code would take too long and be too much effort, and I didn't have a degree or anything like that in coding, software engineering. So I thought, you know what, no code apps. It's something I can do if I invest the time and effort into it. And also, I thought, like, I was already using Figma to design things like YouTube thumbnails. So I knew I could like make the website look okay from a UI perspective. And then it was just exploring Bubble and seeing. I told myself I'll give myself 3 months, see what progress I make, and if it's meaningful, then I'll carry on. And that's it.
That's
I
a
didn't
good
want to
way to
rely
attack
heavily
any
on anyone else.
project. Yeah, it's
Sorry?
a good way to attack any project. I will
Mm,
like, okay, let's actually do it for 3 months,
yeah,
not 3 hours and give up. It's
yeah.
like, okay, 3 months, like actually do it, and then you're like, okay, I can see light at the end of this.
Bec-
Excellent,
and
interesting.
also I realized, like, I thought to myself, if I can become an expert, I'm not an expert on Bubble, but if I can become an
Mm.
expert on Bubble, or if I can find my way around it, then any idea I have, I can just build it. I don't need to worry about oh, I don't have a
How,
technical
who,
founder. So I could create the
yeah,
website, do the back end, make the design look half decent. And from a design perspective, I just use Dribble, um,
yeah,
and a few online resources to just get inspiration and to make it look good, and that's it.
excellent, nice, nice. So interesting. You mentioned you had lots of pivots.
Yeah,
Can you go a bit into it as to like, what did you try and why
yeah.
did you kind of change? What did
So
it look like?
initially, so first there was the one-to-one consulting. That was me career advising
Mhm.
people. That was okay, but it wasn't like huge. It wasn't scalable. It was taking a lot of my time. So moved away from that to now that's just a platform where people can buy like my previous CV, like
Tem-
digital products
Templates,
basically.
yeah, yeah,
And then Simply initially was a platform where an applicant can pay to book time with a professional and Simply takes a fee. And then
Mhm.
I realized that I'm actually like when I was in uni, I wouldn't be able to afford the prices to pay to talk to someone. So I wanted to make it a bit more accessible. And so there was like a part where part of the fees would go towards like less socio-economically economic background young people and help them with mentoring or what have you. Then it pivoted to, so this was on the mobile app. Then we moved away from the mobile app, and this is when I built it myself as a desktop app. So then Simply was a platform just for, so it didn't have a commercial angle at this point. It was just for those from low socio-economic backgrounds to book free video calls with professionals. So I was thinking, this is what I'm more interested in and passionate about. I want to help these young people. They can sign up to the platform. If they meet the eligibility criteria, they can book free video calls with these. And that's what it was since February last year. So launched February last year, and it was like that for like 6 to 8 months. Then I realized, and the point, what I was going for there was, if this works, if I can get traction and get it to like, I don't know, 10,000 users, then I could think about monetizing it. I'm sure with that audience, I can monetize it some way, shape, or form. And then about 6 months ago, I realized, so when I was in university, we used to go to banks and companies for these insight events. So evening sessions with them, and they would present to us. And I had a light bulb moment. I was like, why don't I bring this online? Because it means companies won't be limited to campus. They get access to a broad audience online, and I'm growing that audience. So that was the most recent pivot 6 months ago, where the platform simply has the mentorship aspect, the video calls, which are free for eligible users. But now it's got the section where companies, the commercial aspect of it is companies would pay us a monthly subscription fee, and they can present as many webinars to our audience as they like. And we take care of marketing and getting the audience.
Okay. So, and like, how's it been going? Like,
so
this pivot, the latest iteration.
So whilst all of this is going on, I'm also doing the YouTube channel, right? And so for the longest time, like Bubble has been, like YouTube's been generating the bulk of my income, basically, or revenue, right? So I've been always doing the YouTube, and that's, you generate, for those that don't know, YouTube is typically advertisements on your videos. There's sponsorships in your videos. There's affiliate links that when people click and purchase products, you get like a kickback. So there's different ways, and there's like courses and stuff. So YouTube generates its own income, and for the longest time, Simply was non-revenue generating. And now, so it's revenue generating now, but it's not. It's really in its infancy, the latest model, because for the longest time it was just focused on the social mobility model. And so now one of my priorities is, in order to grow Simply and make it more commercially viable, is I've got a long list of clients that I need to reach out to, corporates, and just try and bring them on the platform to host events, and then convert them into paid customers, paid subscribers. And the idea is, typically a company would hire an external recruiter to help them recruit candidates. And for each candidate placed in a company, they would charge anywhere from £5,000 to £10,000 plus. What I want to do with Simply right now is, like, you pay £500 a month, and you can host as many insight events, i.e. webinars, online to your target audience. We have your target audience. We save the hassle, the effort. So I think it's a very good proposition, but only time will tell if it is, i.e. if it works or if it doesn't work. We've had a few events so far on the platform, but I think there's a long way to go.
Okay, nice. So just playing devil's advocate here, in terms of like Y Combinator and validation, did you validate this iteration, or did you build the features first in Bubble because you knew Bubble?
So it's a good question, and it's a fair question. I think I knew that there would be demand from corporates, because I knew there would be demand from the students and applicants side, because
of course, yeah.
I knew that from time ago. I always do like polls on my Instagram page, talk to people on LinkedIn. So I knew that there was demand for webinars from companies by students. So that was half of the validation. And then the second part of the validation is, would companies be interested in doing it? I spoke to a handful of companies, and they said they're interested. But so one of them was basically a finance company that does online courses, and they're a client right now. So they've done a few webinars on Simply. But I wouldn't say I validated the idea on the client side to an extent that is hugely meaningful. So I didn't talk to 50 companies,
Okay.
for example.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but
I mean,
I knew if I can save companies money, this is how I see it. If I'm a recruiter, um, if I if I'm a company and I want to recruit uh, students and graduates to apply for entry level roles, if a startup can save me thousands of pounds, it makes sense.
it
But
does.
yeah,
It does. Yeah, no, it's the very MVP of the MVP that's coming to my head is like run the event manually instead of doing it from a platform. It's like, okay, this is going to be a Zoom call and we're going to blast it out to the mailing list and a one time. Are you willing to pay 2,000 for this kind of thing? And you'll get all these like audience up front.
so yeah,
So
so essentially, so you say that essentially the platform. So on Simply, if let's say you're a company and you want to, you know, you want to use Simply, the video calls aren't integrated in the Simply platform. It's taken
okay,
offline and it's done through Zoom. So essentially, what I'm doing
okay,
now is kind of validating the idea, basically.
exactly. I see. Okay.
So the
I
website
thought there was
didn't
like
change much.
I thought the platform itself had like lots of bells and whistles to support the event.
No, 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 no,
But
no.
okay, okay,
That's
okay.
all.
But
So that is all a monthly subscription to Zoom webinars, and then when a webinar is scheduled, I host it with the company, and that's it. From a Simply perspective, the website hasn't really changed much. I just needed to add some more UI on employers and make it appealing for
I see.
them. But
Nice.
it's not been too much work. That's it.
Okay.
So I guess we're
Interesting.
validating now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, all the best. All the best. Pivots are interesting. And we've pivoted like we've taken some clients who started at B2C and went B2B, which
Yeah.
is like, okay, we just changed the whole lot of stuff here in the
Yeah.
middle. So it is a journey. We've like and it can take a long time. And that's when you like the product market fit problem. It's one of the toughest problems
Yeah.
to crack and there's no way except for actually trying it.
Yeah.
Even no amount of interviews will do it until you're like start selling it
Yeah.
and
It's
start
true.
asking money for it.
Only until you start charging, then you realize if there's demand or if there's a market for it. How do you go about finding your clients or for your agency? Uh
So for the Bubble work,
yeah.
so Bubble has its own agency kind of job request kind of matching system now.
All right.
It used to be a simpler mailing list,
Yeah.
which could blast out to all the agencies, but it has its own more Upwork style, kind of
That's
like
cool.
you see job requests and you can like bid on them.
Got it.
So that is one part.
Yeah.
And early on, I started like 3 years ago, and
Yeah.
that and the Bubble forum was the lion's share
Yeah.
of everything. And up until like I don't know a year ago, I mean I always knew that this is gonna get hard.
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna it's not gonna last forever. These
Yeah.
like warm customers coming to you isn't just never gonna
I guess
last
you
forever.
were an early mover in the
So
space. So
3 years, yeah, there were people before me, but three
yeah.
years ago I was like, okay, there's like too much volume coming through, and there's
Yeah.
not enough agencies listening there. So, and it was like I managed to like build the initial client base
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah.
However, a yearish ago, that was like, okay, that channel's not working anymore,
Mm.
and that's when a year, 6 months, I can't remember, but that's when I was like, okay, it's kind of like to what's marketing kind of thing because before then all I knew how to do I knew how to build bubble apps
Yeah.
and like lead bubble teams. I knew how to like, oh, some email came through, let's respond to it kind
Yeah.
of thing and try and book a call. So that's
Yeah.
what but I didn't know any marketing, no social
Yeah.
media as such, no YouTube as such.
Yeah.
And that's when okay we like tried a bunch of stuff like tried ads, not enough duration and not I think the ticket sizes are bigger for like just small time ads anyways. Polished the website up, started
Yeah.
posting on YouTube, started posting on Twitter, started posting on LinkedIn, started reaching out to all
Everything.
old clients, like basically did everything. Sent
Yeah.
out an email to all old clients, sent out an email to all old clients offering money for like introductions. So there was a
That's
time when
funny.
I was like, okay, just kind of doing everything.
Yeah.
But Bubble has recently improved the system itself.
That's
Previously,
good.
the email blast to everyone
Yeah.
would result in spam from all agencies to that
Yeah.
one poor founder.
Yeah.
And I'd get on a call and they'd be like, I have 100 emails in my inbox.
Oh my
And I'm
God.
like, well, I'm lucky, but still. Now it's a bit more kind of like you don't get the email, you see the request come through, and then you try and like submit a bid and they can kind of choose through and then reach out.
That's
So
good.
it's still good, it's better, but it's still, you can't depend on it. It's just it's like any marketplace. Over time you just can't depend on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, bits and bobs of things working. We are a small agency. We've got like 10-ish devs, I think, or maybe
Okay.
like a few product managers, 10 devs. So it's not like we need like 100 projects a month or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of our existing clients are expanding as well, so they keep us busy as well.
That's good.
So yeah, the pipelines actually, it like a while ago it was like I've got free devs, and now it's like there's two people waiting, kind of like who's free to
Oh
like
wow.
start. Yeah, it's a
Um,
different problem to have.
it's yeah, it's a good problem to have, I guess. It means you're getting lots of clients.
Yeah.
When so how long have you been on Bubble? What was your background prior to Bubble, and then
So,
how long did it take you to become an expert at Bubble, and then how long did it take to get your first employee and grow the agency to 10
so
employees or 10 devs?
interesting. So background is engineering,
Yeah.
but not software. It's more electrical.
Okay.
But I spent most of my like 5-ish years work experience in software, but for electrical devices.
Okay.
So the things that would go in your Wi-Fi router or TV or microwave. So it's called embedded software. So
Mm.
not stuff on the web or computer, but embedded software. Like when you press a button on a microwave, some microcontroller executes something
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more behind the scenes kind of
Okay.
software. So I did have software, and like you said, like it was hard to learn. I tried a few times to learn web, and because like startups, Y Combinator, Hacker News, and it's just like this JavaScript thing is not clicking
Yeah.
in my head. But then I like kind of at a meetup actually. So why did I start? Like I was like, okay, job is one thing, but I was like, okay, I need to do something of my own and dabbled in the Y Combinator space a bit. There was one cohort where they accidentally sent all the no list yes emails for Y Combinator
Oh,
startups.
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
it happened. It
mad.
happened because I was in the no list. So I was like, I went and I told my wife, I was like, oh, we somehow got in. I don't know what happened. And
Oh
then like
my
an hour
God.
later, oops, that's the no list. So
Oh,
you
that's
actually
so
know.
bad.
And then I went and I was like, well, we're actually no. And then
Oh,
an hour later, they're like, we're gonna accept everyone
oh wow.
because we made the mistake. Yeah. So and then it was like this massive cohort. So that was during the job, just dabbling in things. But
So wait. What cohort were
in
you in Y Combinator?
2000, uh, it was their online one, not the cohort, not the
Okay.
main one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Startup school, the online. It's now
Okay,
free
got it.
actually. It's free to join for everyone now, and not
Yeah.
the main Y Combinator
I
with
see, I
the
see, I see. I
equity
see.
and the grant. Yeah, yeah, that's
Got it.
the harder one.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
No,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
I'm aware of
the
startup
online one,
school. Got it, got
startup
it.
school. That one, that
Sorry.
one, that one. Yeah,
Carry on. Sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
So around about 2018, I think, early, I forget. Uh, I got my visa thing sorted, so I could leave my job.
Yeah.
Before then, I could not leave my job at all.
Mm.
So no amount of savings would help that. The visa thing was quite critical.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was like, I remember it was a January, and I was in Pakistan, and then I came back, and I had like lined up all meetups. This is just before COVID, actually. So 2020 something, not 18. just before course. So like January was like meetup. And it was like all of them: cybersecurity, data science, AI,
Yeah.
any entrepreneur, like coaching, like networking. I just went to all of them.
Yeah.
And in one of them, Simon from Million Labs, another Bubble agency, he told me about like this. He does Bubble,
Yeah.
which is like, and he described it as the WordPress for web apps.
Okay.
And that kind of like just latched on. I'm like, there's a WordPress for
Mm.
web apps, because I had done a bit of side WordPress consulting
Mm.
during my job. And it was like, okay. Then I went and checked, and
Mm.
it was like, okay, this is like kind of
Yeah.
thing. I didn't know this existed. And I remember asking Simon as well, what's the kind of supply demand like? And he told me there's just too many people reaching out, and there's not enough Bubble developers in the market, because Bubble had outgrown the supply of kind of Bubble devs. The
Yeah.
requirement had outgrown. That was like 3 years ago. And first client, now that was interesting. It was a Slack community, Islamic makers. I don't know if you've like
Yeah. Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
that around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
you
get
do
their
you know
emails.
Ibrahim? Yeah, do you know Ibrahim from IFG, Islamic Finance Guru? You're in the
Yes.
finance
Yeah.
space, you
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
know.
I think he's on, or they're on YouTube as well.
Exactly. So he posted on the Slack that they
Mm.
need an interactive dashboard as a comparison tool for investments, and they
Got
were
it.
looking for WordPress actually.
Mm.
And I was like, I reached out to him saying like, don't build it on WordPress, we'll build it on Bubble.
Yeah.
And I remember I had to basically half make it to win it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. See here, see, I can just like a repeating group, and these are your filters, these are your things. So I could like half make the thing, learning as you go, and half make the thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay. And we did build it, and it was supposed to be a throwaway no code solution
Yeah.
when they built it in code for 6 months. And I think it lasted for like 2 years or something,
Oh
which is
wow.
like, because it just works kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I was like, it just works. So that happened. Simultaneously, Bubble Forum, RFP, other things, and first hire was pretty quickly actually. Like I kind of like had in my mind to not try and not sell my time and hire others
Yeah.
and kind of like train them. Wanted to hire in Pakistan because that's where I'm from, jobs and everything.
Yeah.
So hired a front end WordPress person. And
Okay.
because I was like, I can handle backend, but the pretty stuff is just, I can't do that. So he came from a bit of a WordPress front end portfolio. He is better at it. So that was first, and it snowballed very quickly
Oh wow.
actually to 7, 8 devs. Was like him is like, okay, he knew a few and he knew others and he knew others. I was like, okay, 6, 7, 8 people. And since like it's we're at the stage where I can handle X amount of projects,
Yeah.
which is very hard for me at the moment to kind of like go to the next level, like
Mm.
when I'm not involved in the project
Ah.
at all,
Okay.
kind of thing. So it's like whether it's I'm making mistakes in hiring or I'm making mistakes in delegating, or to be honest, 6 months ago there wasn't enough deal flow anyways. So I'm
Uh,
making mistakes in marketing or sales. Like where we've got like a dev free or 2 devs free, so there's no point hiring more people. So
yeah.
it's like ups and downs, but that's about the state
Okay.
of like, yeah. So but it's
Great.
all good. It's very exciting, interesting stuff.
And
uh
this is this, do you do this full time, or are you working on a like normal job on the side, or?
Oh, it's full time. It's a
Okay.
hundred
Yeah.
percent since 3 years now. Yeah. It's a full time. Which I can't manage this with half. Like even
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like it's more than double full time. It's like
Yeah. I get.
like
Well,
crazy hours.
story of
Yeah,
entrepreneurship's life.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Any founder.
I
So
I want to keep talking. We could definitely like. I know there's so much to talk about, but I've got a hard stop at
I
1
know.
p.m. Just to make you
No worries.
aware. But yeah,
Yeah.
let's
That's
carry
good.
on. Sorry.
Yeah. So just some kind of like what a few questions. I'm just looking at my list.
Yeah.
Uh, do you think you'll outgrow Bubble? and you'd want to go like, you know what, it's amazing, I'm going to go code to, because
I
that's
don't,
the common question
what would
people
be
like.
the like, so I had one of the questions I had for you actually was what type of companies struggle on Bubble? Like what would Bubble struggle to make? And I imagine it would be the typical like heavy data driven, not data driven, heavy AI type of startups that require tons of AI algorithms to predict stuff and create stuff. Bubble can't do that.
Yeah. So Bubble, we've built a few of those actually. So Bubble
Okay.
can make the API call to an
Mm.
external service and return the result. So the front end SaaS, that component, we're making a stable diffusion powered platform at the moment.
Okay.
So actual stable diffusion generative AI model lives in Python AI land.
Mm.
But Bubble makes the API call, passes the data prompt to it, and just return back the image, display the image. So Bubble can handle that.
Yeah.
To answer your original question of when, I agree with you. There's still a lot of skepticism in the market. With the new responsive engine,
Mm.
it's the barrier. Like with the old responsive engine, it was definitely the UI was like, you just won't get that polish level. It was really hard.
Mm.
Despite Buildcamp's amazing tutorials about it, it
Mm.
was really hard to just extract that level of polish. But with the new responsive engine, that barrier is just easy. Like the UI is not a problem anymore. So then data becomes the main weak link. If you want to process like hundreds of thousands of records in fast, like not just like, oh, will take like hours, just
Yeah.
do quickly heavy data
Yeah.
things, that's a barrier. If you have a visual component of your app which is not standard web, like buttons, forms, and like if you are like a game or some like 3D or some fancy visual effects, then you go into custom plugin territory,
Yeah.
or code maybe just better. But definitely a lot of platforms can just like, there's no reason to move other than that just question of like some people want to.
Yeah. I mean, if like right now, the so simply basically it's not it's not an intensive web app. Uh, it runs fine on Bubble. If it gets to a point where simply is or Bubble is too slow for simply, then it will be time to think of different alternatives. But I can't see that happening. So
Yeah,
if there's
I
no
mean
issues,
there's
don't change it.
dedicated plans as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's dedicated plans as well.
Yeah.
Mobile apps would be the other area which I'd be like, it's Bubble's not strong in them.
Correct.
Mobile responsive, fine, but mobile apps, it's just not designed for that yet.
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
So, like, how do you juggle being a Bubble developer and a founder and a YouTuber and a LinkedIn influencer?
Well,
Is it
I
like,
mean,
or do you have a team of people
nah,
and it's you
so
at the
it's
front or
one
you're
man
leading a
show.
team?
It's one man
One
show.
man show.
Just me.
Wow. Do you sleep?
I do, but I don't need that much. No, in all honesty, so the LinkedIn thing, that's not like that following grew over time. I hardly post. I post here and there, maybe when I'm out having a coffee or it's not a time drag. But I ramp it up when I want to market, for example. So whenever there's insight events on Simply, I would post about it on LinkedIn. So that's just like
Okay.
marketing. In terms of so you said Bubble developer, founder, and YouTube. So Bubble developer, so a year ago, uh, I was developing on Bubble on the platform. A lot of time was going towards that. So um, yeah, it was that and YouTube. But then for the last year, I haven't really been in Bubble and developed anything because there hasn't been a need. Only when I did the pivot, I had to update a few designs and create a few pages. But it hasn't been design or development intensive. So it's mostly just been YouTube and being a founder. So growing the user base of
Okay.
Bubble, of Simply, sorry. Um,
Nice.
and since the new Bubble responsive design system launch, I actually don't know how to use
Yeah.
it. I haven't used it. Like the Bubble
Oh
app.
no.
So I watched your tutorial on YouTube when it first
Yeah.
happened, and I was like,
Yeah.
in future, I'm gonna need this because I'm gonna come back to watch this video when I'm happy to create an app using this new responsive engine. Because I was too scared to convert the existing Bubble app, Simply app, to the new
Don't
system,
do it.
and everything would mess up. And I haven't done it to this
It
day
will.
because it will
Yeah,
completely ruin it.
the convert button won't work well. So
Yeah.
don't do it.
So up to this day, I've been praying that please don't let Bubble automatically do it because it will ruin the business.
They won't. They won't. We've got
Yeah.
apps ages old on
Yeah.
old legacy plans, and they still work. So they're really good with that, and
Yeah.
especially B2B apps. We've got a few. One of them was on the old, and I reached out to the founder. It's like, do you want to upgrade? It'd be like better responsive and slightly slick. And he's
Yeah.
like, I'll ask the team, all the 50 employees working across countries using it, to
Mm.
come up with a feature list so that we can actually like grow
Ah,
and
okay.
upgrade.
Yeah.
The team couldn't come up with a feature list, which was so it's like the app steering complete
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's like it because it mapped to their process, and
Yeah.
they're a business running since 10 years or something, so their
Okay.
process was refined. So the app was built for that process.
Got it.
So until they change their process,
Then.
the app kind of just work
Yeah. No, fair
essentially.
enough. I think if
Yeah.
I develop a new app, it will have to be on the new responsive engine. I'll just
Oh
spend
yeah.
a few hours on it. I'll watch your videos. Build Camp I use quite a lot actually to get to simply where it is. I use Build
Yeah.
Camp a lot. I attended one of their boot
Good.
camps.
Yeah, FlexCamp's the new one. The old one was the Build Camp
I
Design Camp or
joined the
something like
old
that.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I got in. I responded to. I think it's John. His name is, or I can't
Uh,
remember.
Gregory. Yeah,
Gregory.
yeah,
That's it.
Gregory John. Yeah,
Gregory
yeah.
John. I responded to a Twitter thread, and I won a place in the boot camp for free. So I attended, and it was great. And then I ended up
Nice.
winning an iPad because of my design. So
Oh wow.
very
I was
lucky.
I was I was part I attended that to learn,
Yeah.
uh, but I didn't submit because just project work and busy stuff. But I
Fair
was like,
enough.
okay, you won the iPad.
I know. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Nice. So my last question
Sure.
is any advice
Yeah.
you'd like to give anyone? It's whether it's Bubble or founders. I think founder perspectives would be good.
Sure.
But any advice? Yeah.
I think to learn, but if you're interested in Bubble, everything you need is out there. Best resources are YouTube videos. Watch all of them, and then each person that posts on YouTube usually has a website or a company or an agency. Check out their website, and if you can afford to pay for their services, find the best ones and pay for them. Exactly. You've got ASCII Tech. Use them. They've got 10 developers who are dying to do your projects. No, but so everything you need for Bubble is online. I think the good way to go about it is give yourself a certain time frame. Mine was like 3 to 6 months, and tell yourself how much can I learn in this time. And if you see meaningful progress, then you're onto something. From a founder perspective, I think it always makes sense to test if you've got an audience, test that, like talk to them, see if there's demand for the idea. If you don't have an audience, I would say now is the time to kind of grow an audience through whether it's YouTube or TikTok or LinkedIn, whatever it is, because it will help in marketing your product when it's built. But yeah, so those are the two
Nice.
things: try and build the product and then try and market the product. Yeah,
Sounds simple, doesn't it?
sounds
Just
simple, but it requires turning up every single day and just
consistency.
trying to improve with each day, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
consistency and
any
value add. That's the key. Consistency
yeah.
and value add.
So and pointers for growing an audience if somebody's starting. Like I don't know. I think like 4,000 LinkedIn followers, which sounds like a lot. When I
Yeah,
was like at 1,000, it's like, oh man,
4,000 is
4,000.
more than the average person. So, you're ahead of
Is
most
it?
people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so I would say in terms of growing an audience, like each one of us is likely a specialist in something. Like I'm a specialist in breaking into finance careers and careers advice. You're a specialist in developing Bubble apps and running a business with lots of employees, right? So, for example, if you were gonna, you've got your YouTube channel, you can easily grow it because you've got a lot of insight that most people don't have. The key is to just put out useful videos, see the videos that performed well for your channel, and then put out similar videos consistently over time. and that's it. Your platform will grow, and then that's a marketing engine easily for you. You could get a lot of business, a lot of clients through that, because it's a global audience that are watching your videos. You could share bubble Twitter threads on Twitter. Sorry, my cat's meowing outside.
That's fine.
Twitter, LinkedIn. You could just share your insights, and naturally, the people that are interested will warm to your ideas and follow you.
Nice, nice. I think we can book another hour
I
where you
know.
can coach me on growing an audience.
That's the gist of it.
But
Honestly, that's the gist of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So yeah,
it is. It is. So yeah, I know you have a hard stop. So thank you very much
pleasure.
for your time, the insights, sharing the insights, and yeah,